All right, let's dive into something we can all relate to, the consequences of imposing your dreams on your children.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and to get into it, we're going to be looking at Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Really. Interesting choice.
Yeah, it's an animated movie, but, trust me on this one.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It uses humor and visuals to really get at that tension of expectations between parents and kids.
Oh, for sure. Those unspoken things can really weigh you down.
Exactly. So we'll be looking at how parental pressure plays out, that struggle to be your own person, and what can happen when unfulfilled dreams kind of get passed down.
It's almost like a recipe for disaster sometimes, isn't it?
Sometimes, yeah. So let's meet our main character, Flint Lockwood.
Okay.
He's just this quirky inventor. He's loved science since he was a little kid.
I love those types.
Yeah, and his mom was always supportive, even when his experiments didn't exactly go to plan.
That early encouragement is so important, It really helps build confidence.
Definitely. When you feel safe to experiment, even to mess up, you're more likely to take risks.
Absolutely. It lets you explore your ideas, figure out what you're really good at.
You find your own potential.
Exactly.
But things change for Flint when he loses his mom.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, and his relationship with his dad, Tim, becomes the focus.
Okay.
And Tim, well, he's a fisherman.
Okay.
He's stoic, doesn't say much.
I can picture him.
Yeah, and he mostly speaks in fishing metaphors, which makes it hard for him to connect with Flint's passion for inventing.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, he keeps pushing Flint towards the family business, the sardine cannery.
The good old reliable path.
Right, it's like that classic, well-intentioned but misguided parenting thing.
You want the best for your kid, but sometimes you miss what they're really passionate about.
Exactly. Tim wants Flint to have stability, security, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
But he's not really seeing Flint's unique talents.
Right.
And the film kind of hints at a bigger issue, too. Tim's whole communication style, always with the fishing metaphors. It's like how men are often taught to not really express their emotions directly.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And that can lead to some serious communication problems, especially between fathers and sons.
Yeah, it's like they're speaking different languages almost.
Exactly. So it's not just about Tim pushing his own unfulfilled dreams onto Flint. It's also about how he communicates or doesn't communicate his feelings.
It leaves Flint feeling empty.
Yeah, like he's yearning for that direct validation,
Yeah.
To be seen for who he is, not who his dad wants him to be.
It's that feeling of, do you really get me?
Exactly. And because of this lack of connection, Flint becomes vulnerable to outside influences.
Oh, that's dangerous.
And that's when we meet the mayor. He's charismatic, manipulative, and he sees right through Flint.
Oh.
He knows Flint's desperate for approval, and he uses that to his advantage.
Like a cautionary tale almost.
Right. It shows what can happen when a child who's craving acceptance gets caught up with someone who, well, might not have the best intentions.
You can get pulled in so easily when you're looking for that kind of validation.
Yeah, it's like that saying, nature abhors a vacuum.
Yeah.
If that need for validation isn't met in healthy ways, it's going to find an outlet somewhere.
And sometimes it leads down a pretty destructive path.
Yeah, and in Flint's case, it leads to some serious consequences. But then there's another interesting character, Sam Sparks.
Okay, good here.
She's this bright, ambitious weather intern.
Cool.
And she's also dealing with pressure to conform, but in a totally different way than Flint.
How so?
Well, she's actually suppressing her passion for science because she was teased about it as a kid.
Well, that's so sad.
Yeah, it's like she's internalized these expectations, so she hides her true self.
It's a common story, unfortunately, especially for women in science.
Totally. And get this, it's Flint, the one so desperate for recognition, who ends up encouraging Sam to embrace her inner nerd.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
He sees her brilliance, and his acceptance helps her shed those insecurities and be her authentic self.
That's the power of finding someone who truly sees you.
Exactly. And this acceptance, that feeling of being seen and understood, it's what Flint craves from his dad. But their communication styles are just so different. It's like there's this huge wall between them.
It's like they're on opposite sides of the spectrum. Yeah, it's like they can't quite bridge that gap.
Exactly. And it's kind of ironic, isn't it?
What is?
Flint, he's looking for his dad's approval, but he ends up seeking it from the mayor, who's like everything Tim fears.
Right. The mayor's all about excess, doesn't care about the consequences.
Totally. And he kind of becomes this symbol of what can go wrong when a child needs approval and doesn't get it in healthy ways.
Makes you think, what if Tim had been more open with Flint?
Yeah, what if? But instead, it's like Flint's trading one form of control for another.
Instead of sardines, it's cheeseburgers raining from the sky.
Exactly. And at first, it's amazing, right? Everyone's happy.
But it gets out of hand fast.
So fast. This is where the film starts to critique consumerism.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The food falling from the sky. It's like this symbol of excess, always wanting more.
Just like in real life.
Exactly. We're always told we need the newest thing, the bigger house, more stuff.
And it never really makes us happy.
It's like we're looking for happiness in all wrong places.
And Flint, he gets swept up in it all.
He loses sight of the consequences.
Yeah, his invention, it was supposed to solve world hunger, but it becomes this destructive force.
It's almost like a cautionary tale about unchecked ambition.
And it connects back to imposing dreams too, right?
Oh, how so?
Well, Flint's trying to prove himself to his dad, but he goes about it in this kind of messed up way.
He's trying to live up to some image of success.
And in doing that, he loses himself a bit.
But then there's this really powerful moment between Flint and Tim.
When he tries to shut down the machine.
Yeah, he goes to Flint's lab, surrounded by all these gadgets, and tries to send the kill code.
Even though he doesn't really understand any of it.
Right. It shows how far a parent will go to help their child.
He's putting aside his own fears to be there for Flint.
It's a turning point for them.
It is. And then when Tim brings Flint his lab coat during the food storm, that's huge.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he's finally accepting Flint's passion.
This is who you are, he's saying.
Exactly. And it comes at this crucial moment when Flint needs it most.
It's like he's giving Flint permission to be himself.
And you know what else is interesting?
What's that?
This acceptance happens right when Flint starts to embrace his past failures.
Oh, you mean all those wacky inventions?
Yeah, the rat birds, the spray-on shoes.
The stuff Tim never understood.
Right. And they end up being the key to saving the day.
It's like the film is saying, hey, those things you thought were failures, they might actually be your biggest strengths.
You gotta learn from your mistakes.
And sometimes those so-called mistakes lead to the most creative solutions.
It's all that perspective. Right.
Exactly. And it's in this moment, when Flint accepts his past and gets his dad's support, that he finally realizes his potential.
He finally figures out who he really is.
Yeah, it's like he finally steps into his own.
And the movie, it's really about so much more than just food.
Oh, for sure. It's about parenting. It's about societal pressures.
And dealing with those unfulfilled dreams.
It really makes you think.
It does. And, you know, one of the biggest things I take away from it is the importance of acceptance.
Yeah, like accepting our kids for who they are.
Exactly. But also accepting ourselves as parents.
Even with all our flaws.
Oh, absolutely. We're all just figuring it out as we go.
And sometimes you gotta let go of those ideas about what success looks like.
Especially for our kids.
It's tough, but you gotta let them find their own way.
It can be so freeing, though, for everyone involved.
It is. When we stop trying to control everything,
You start to see your kids as individuals.
not as extensions of ourselves.
Exactly. It's like you're giving them the tools to build their own lives.
And sometimes that means letting them make mistakes.
Oh, for sure. Mistakes are how we learn,
It's about trusting them to figure things out.
even when they stumble.
Because those stumbles, they often teach the most valuable lessons.
Absolutely. You know, I think back to all the times I messed up.
We've all been there.
And those were the times I grew the most.
And Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, it shows that so well.
Flint's whole journey is about learning from those missteps.
And realizing that failure isn't the end.
It's just part of the process.
And remember how important communication was in the film.
Oh, yeah. The lack of it really caused problems for Flint and his dad.
If they'd been more open with each other,
Things might have been different.
it shows how crucial it is to really listen to our kids.
Create a space where they feel safe to share anything
Their dreams, their fears, all of it.
without feeling judged.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, our kids, they're not blank slates.
They come with their own personalities, their own passions.
We can't just force our dreams onto them.
We gotta help them discover their own.
And those paths, they might not be straight lines.
It might be messy, full of detours.
But those are the paths that lead to the most interesting destinations.
That's where the real growth happens.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs,
What a journey, right?
it's been a delicious one.
Lots to chew on.
We hope it's given you some food for thought, so to speak.
Maybe even inspired you to think differently about your own experiences.
With following your own path,
Because ultimately, it's about embracing those unique flavors.
both in ourselves and in the people we care about.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.